Tired of apologizing for your history? Tired of being ashamed of being descended from the British or currently being a British citizen? You have no reason to feel shame. Your history is full of thousands upon thousands of examples of heroic figures. You people had a huge part in abolishing slavery and spreading the rule of law across the entire planet. Don't feel shame, feel pride. And if you want a great resource for really tidy little videos that are super fascinating about British history and the reasons that you have to be proud, go no further than Proud of Us UK. Watch my video all about it.
Are you proud to be British?
No, no. It's got a very, history of, colonialism that I don't love, that I hate. No, I'm not proud to be British.
The decline of Britain is not just marked by the decay in our streets, but by a deeper, more insidious erosion of what it means to be British. The state has chosen to celebrate every group identity under the sun, every culture, every foreign tradition, while simultaneously erasing and denigrating the very identity of the British people. The streets are plastered with banners that glorify race, gender or sexuality, yet our own history, our own heritage, is buried beneath layers of guilt and shame. We are told that to be proud of our Britishness is to be outdated, to be narrow-minded or even worse, to be hateful. The state pushes an agenda that elevates every group identity except our own, constantly reminding us that we must apologise for who we are, for the legacy that we built, and for the very land we once called our own. It's a constant drumbeat of revisionism, where the British are painted as the villains of history, their struggles and triumphs erased in favour of narratives that are meant to appease the whims of political correctness. In this new world, British pride is not just forbidden. It is vilified. The state has crafted a false image of unity by elevating the identities of others at the cost of our very own, and by doing so, they've betrayed the essence of what it means to be British. We're told to celebrate diversity, but in doing so, we have lost what has made us a nation at all.
You've been lied to. They told you a story about Britain, colonizers, slavers, oppressors. Here's what they didn't tell you. Your ancestors, the factory workers, the farm laborers, the shopkeepers, the miners, they didn't own slaves. They couldn't afford passage across the channel, let alone a plantation in Jamaica. They worked 14-hour days and died young and poor. But when they finally got a voice, they used it, not for themselves, to end injustice. More people signed petitions against slavery than could vote. Working families gave up sugar, their one small luxury, because they refused to taste cruelty. The powerful owned slaves. The people ended slavery. The powerful exploited children. The people stopped them. The powerful denied the vote. The people took it. Teenage girls with rotting jaws walked out of factories and won. 12 jurors chose prison over convicting an innocent man. But Britain didn't just end slavery here. They ended it everywhere. They paid foreign rulers to stop. When they broke their word, Britain came back. Again and again, they sent warships to patrol Africa for 60 years. 17,000 sailors died, not for Britain, for strangers they'd never meet. They bombarded Algiers and freed 1 million Europeans. They paid 40% of the national budget, a debt you and your parents were still paying off in 2015. Not kings, not generals, not aristocrats. Working people, your ancestors. This is Proud of Us, a place to be proud and learn from other working class people. His name was William Wilberforce. Born in Hull in 1759 to a wealthy merchant family, he could have lived a comfortable life. Instead, he chose something else. In 1785, he had a religious conversion. He went to an old clergyman for advice, a man named John Newton. Newton had been a slave trader. He wrote Amazing Grace about his own guilt. Newton told Wilberforce, stay in politics, fight from the inside. In 1787, the Prime Minister challenged him under an oak tree. The challenge, end the slave trade, but he didn't fight alone. Thomas Clarkson rode 35,000 miles gathering evidence. Oloda Equiano gave testimony no politician could ignore. He had been enslaved himself. He wrote his own story, and Wilberforce took their evidence to Parliament, and yet they voted no. But he simply came back. Once more, they voted no again. Again, he just came back. In 1793, he lost by just 8 votes. Members of Parliament deliberately stayed away so they wouldn't have to choose a side. Still, he came back once more. Admiral Nelson himself wrote against him. The entire sugar trade wanted him silenced. By now, his health was failing. His eyesight was nearly gone. He'd been on opium since he was 29, just to function. Yet again, he came back. 20 years after he started, they voted again. 283 votes to 16. The slave trade was abolished, but Wilberforce was not finished yet. Abolishing the trade wasn't enough. Slavery itself was still legal. He fought for another 26 years. In July 1833, lying in bed, barely able to move, he received word. Parliament had voted. Slavery was abolished across the entire British Empire. 3 days later, William Wilberforce died. He held on just long enough. They buried him in Westminster Abbey. 11 defeats, 46 years, nearly blind, nearly broken, and he freed an empire. They teach you slavery ended. They don't teach you how hard one man had to fight to end it. How many times he was told no. How many times he walked back in. A man from Hull who refused to stop until the world changed.
I bet you've never heard that story before, have you? There are thousands upon thousands of stories just like that actually highlight what a great people the British people have been. The British people who are the English, the Scottish, the Irish, and the Welsh. Maybe the Cornish. But these people's histories have been buried behind Marxist lies. It's proud to be us, UK. Effort is obviously an effort to reclaim the lost history of the British people. Probably the best, most benevolent empire in world history. Few people are privy to the history of Great Britain and its fight against the slave trade. Yes, while Great Britain did engage in the slave trade in the earlier years of its empire, it actually abolished slavery and worked tirelessly at the cost of thousands of British sailors to abolish slavery, not just in the British Empire, but across the world. And if we did more to teach the younger generations about this history, that would go a very long way in pulling out the ideological rug from under these Marxists, because they operate under the assumption that Western civilization, British civilization, American civilization is inherently evil. Colonialism, slavery, you know the buzzwords. History tells quite a different story. The United States is the only major nation in world history to ever fight a civil war specifically to do with slavery. The British Empire, I believe, is the only empire in world history to actually end slavery in other parts of the world that weren't under the tutelage of the British Empire. And as you guys know, white people in the modern world are constantly browbeaten about our colonial past and our supposed affinity for slavery, even though slavery has been a part of every single culture on planet Earth, and the fact that the slavery that we did unfortunately practice was actually not as brutal or violent as, for instance, the East African slave trade. You see, if we pick apart their history with true historical knowledge, they will not have a table to stand on, chair to stand on, floor to stand on, I don't know. You know what I'm saying. A leg to stand on. Man, I can be a little absent-minded sometimes, can't I? Anyways, on to the next heartwarming story about the British people's involvement in the abolishment of the slave trade.
His name was John Newton, born in London, 1725. His mother died when he was 6. He went to sea at 11 with his father. By 20, he was wild, deserting ships, getting flogged by the Navy. Then he ended up in Sierra Leone, enslaved by a slave trader's wife, a British man, in chains, in Africa. He was rescued in 1748. On the voyage home, a storm nearly killed him. He cried out to God. For the first time in years, the ship survived, barely. Newton called it his conversion. He marked March 21st as his spiritual birthday for the rest of his life. But here's the uncomfortable part. He didn't stop. He became a slave ship captain. 3 voyages. Hundreds of people in chains below his deck. He knew it was wrong. He kept doing it. In 1754, a stroke ended his career at sea, and something changed. Slowly, over years, he became a clergyman, and in 1772, in a small parish in Buckinghamshire, he wrote a hymn, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, that saved a wretch like me. A wretch like me. He meant every word. He'd been enslaved, he'd enslaved others, and he was writing about mercy. But Newton wasn't done. The hymn wasn't the ending. It was the beginning. In 1785, a young MP called William Wilberforce came to see him. Wilberforce was thinking of leaving Parliament for the church. Newton told him to stay, to fight slavery from inside the system. Wilberforce stayed. In 1788, Newton published his testimony, Thoughts upon the African Slave Trade, 3,000 copies, one for every MP and lord. He described what he'd seen, what he'd done, the horrors below deck, the suffering he'd caused. No one could dismiss it. He'd been there. He'd done it. He was confessing. On the 25th of March 1807, Parliament abolished the slave trade. John Newton was 82, nearly blind, still alive. He'd prayed to live long enough to see it. He died 9 months later. Near the end, he said, my memory is nearly gone. But I remember 2 things, that I am a great sinner, and that Christ is a great Savior. The hymn he wrote in that parish study became the most recorded song in the English language. It became the anthem of the American Civil Rights Movement. A hymn written by a British slave trader about his own guilt became the voice of freedom for the people his trade had enslaved. Newton didn't just change his own life. He changed Wilberforce's mind, and Wilberforce changed the law. One man's guilt, one conversation, one hymn, one law. Be proud of us. Amazing Grace is still sung in churches, at funerals, at protests, all over the world. Most people who sing it don't know it was written by a slave trader about his own guilt. They don't know about the conversation that changed Wilberforce's mind, or the testimony that shamed a parliament into acting. The full story is always more powerful than the version they left us. Every person who supports us helps bring stories like this one back. That's what we're here to fix. proudofus.co.uk/support. Be part of us. Be proud of us.
Shoot, I'm not even British and I'm proud of the British. Good job, Proud of Us, UK. What an amazing couple of stories. And there's many, many more. So you guys definitely need to follow them on social media. This is the Proud of Us UK's X profile. Take a screenshot of it. You want to give these guys your support. You want to follow their X page. Here's Proud of Us UK's profile on TikTok. Once again, take a screenshot, give them a follow. Here's Proud of Us UK's YouTube channel. Take a screenshot, give them a follow. Let's support each other. You know what? Give me a follow while you're at it too. This is my YouTube channel, Brandon Wright 1001. My Reddit, Rebel Always, or Brandon Thomas Wright. My Facebook, Brandon Wright, with Charlie Kirk as my profile picture. And then we're just a few of my social medias. I'm actually on 11 different platforms. Message me, comment, ask me, whichever one of these you want to follow me on, and I will tell you where to go. Thank you. God bless.